Hi, welcome to part 4 of the Pine and Bow Quilt Along. I am Carolyn Friedlander and I'm so excited that you're joining us. In this post, we're going to be talking about bow, and I'm going to be giving you some tips and tricks for your project. I'm going to show you progress on my blocks, and then I'm going to answer 3 questions from you. Let's get started. Let's take a look at my blocks. Since the last post, I have cut out all of my fabrics and I have laid out 4 blocks. I've also appliqued all 4 of them. And when I cut out my blocks, I cut the background a little bit bigger just because I didn't know what I wanted to do with them in the end. And I also didn't know how much space I wanted to have between the blocks. So I just gave myself a little bit extra to give me that flexibility. So let's see. So I have my blocks here. I'm really excited about them. It was really fun to play with the fabrics that I'd selected. If you want to check that process out, it's a couple posts back when I was talking about my fabric pull. But here, yeah, so it's very bold. I like the different fabrics. I like the shapes. One thing that I really like about this project is just how you get these nice thin lines between each of the different shapes as you get them appliqued. These haven't even been pressed, so they'll look a little bit cleaner when I get them pressed. But yeah, I'm pretty excited about it. A couple of things that I'm thinking about for my project. I like, as far as the format, I like having a little less background space. So maybe something like this. I'm thinking about, I could turn them into a pillow sham, which I really like that idea. I could make them into a tote bag. I could sew a few more blocks, make something bigger, which is kind of enticing just because I have more of the cutout shapes and I think those would be fun to work with. But I also like just the manageability of this size project that I have so far. I think these 4 blocks look really nice together. So I might just keep it like this. I could also make a wall hanging, which would be really kind of fun too. I like small wall hangings because I find that they are very easy to put up around the house. There's always a good spot for a small wall hanging. So yeah, I don't know. I think I'm going to stop with these 4 blocks, maybe sew them together. Another thing I thought about with the backgrounds was just because I cut them a little bit bigger, I could somehow use these leftover pieces to do a little bit of piecing, maybe piece them together so that there is a little bit more interest in the background. That might work better if I were making a wall hanging, so if I wanted a little bit bigger size. But if I'm going to be doing like a pillow, I don't know, I usually do like a 20-inch pillow or so. So I'd probably push these guys a little closer together. I don't know, we'll see. Now that I have these done, I can iron them, trim the backgrounds, and start playing around with the final size. I could also just decide to do a little mini wall hanging, but I don't know, we'll see. It's been really fun seeing your projects coming along, so continue to post. You can use the hashtag PineBowQAL. That way we can all see how you're coming along. I wanted to also share some tips and tricks for working with bow. The first thing with any handwork project, the supplies that you're using are really important. With handwork, we're doing everything with our hands. So that makes the tools we use that much more important and relevant. All of our hands are different, and so I think that it's really important to customize your handwork experience to what feels comfortable to you. So some of the things that I really enjoy working with. First of all, it's really good to have a good pouch. Appliqué is such a good travel project, so having a good pouch, I have several that I love. This one is a project by Anila Hui. It's in her book. Stitched Organizers is, I think, the name of the book. I'll link that in the description below. But what's cool about this is that it, snaps closed, and then I can usually fold up my blocks, different size blocks, and I'll put it in here and snap it. And then I can keep my threads, on one side. I keep my scissors, needles, this little mini thread catcher, my pin cushion, thread gloss, all that stuff in here. So I really like having a pouch like this. But as far as supplies go, using thread that will work well. I love using the Aurifil 80 weight for my applique and then 50 weight for the basting. I love using applique pens. These are by Clover and they are about 3/4 of an inch in length. They are nice and small, so they will hold things together but not stick you too much. Needles are very important. I like these applique needles by Clover, but this is something that definitely tailor this to something that fits well and feels good to you. My favorite thing to recommend is whenever you're at a quilt store, take a look at their notions wall and see what kinds of needles that they have on offer. When I was first getting into it, I bought all different types. Anytime I'd see a new one, I'd buy a different one. They usually aren't very expensive, and in trying different ones, you can literally get a feel for what's working well for you. And that can also change depending on the project, depending on the fabrics that you're using. A longer or shorter needle, a longer, shorter, thicker, thinner needle might make a difference. So give those different options a try. Scissors, you'll also want really good sharp scissors. I love Kai. Another supply that I think is really important is thread gloss, thread conditioner. I like using So Fine Thread Gloss, which is a beeswax-based product. Find that it conditions the thread, it strengthens it, makes it feel like it moves through your project much more easily. I also think the scents in So Fine are really kind of a fun way to add a new sensory experience to your project. I found sometimes, in my travel pouch, I'll have certain scents, and if I think about it, I'll get a different one. I have a bunch of different ones to choose from, and just that change of scent, it brings like a new, fun experience to the project. So for this one, I've been using Lemon Basil, which is one of the new scents that So Fine and I just put out a few months ago. So yeah, So Fine Thread Gloss, really like it. I have all of these tools listed in a blog post, my favorite applique tools, and many of them you can find them in my shop, so I'll put a link for both of those below so you can see that. But just keep in mind that handwork, the tools you use are really important, and there are a lot of different things to try, so if something's not feeling great, just explore what options might be available that might feel better and be easier for you to use. One interesting thing that I've discovered is how my handwork project for bow and pine as well are kind of creeping into my everyday life in other ways. So it's May, which is Me Made May, and as part of Me Made May, I have been creating little shirts blocks that match my outfit each day. And it's funny to me how my wardrobe palette choices are kind of matching my projects without me even realizing it. So I was recently working on this block, which has these, it has these fabrics, and I realized yesterday that my outfit matched this fabric as well as this one. So yeah, it's really funny. I auditioned both of these for that block, and I decided to use a slightly different one, but in the fabrics that I was exploring that would mirror my outfit for this shirts block, I not only recognized a direct correlation to this bow block that I was sewing, but also it gave me an idea for a pine tree block that I wanted to make, or that I am thinking I should make for the other project. So I don't know if that happens to you, but I think that I can easily draw parallels between the things that I'm interested in if I really think about it or start to notice. And to me, that's helpful just in terms of feeling inspired, picking color palettes, is that, if you really start to listen to that internal voice and to go with your gut, then you start noticing these things kind of everywhere, and you start seeing how they're related and how one thing can inspire another thing, be it in a different format, whether it's in a new project or even the clothes that you're wearing. Kind of all of these aspects of our lives are really great places to draw inspiration from. So something to think about. Another tip for your handwork is just to make sure you have a really comfortable place to work, a place that suits your body so that you're not straining or uncomfortable as you work on your project. So I like sitting in a comfortable chair with an ottoman out in front of me. That way I can prop my legs up and my knees become kind of a resting place for my project. It helps me support my work. So that's a position that I am very comfortable in. Lighting is also really important. I have a daylight light, and it has a long band of light that is, it's an LED that you can swivel this way, you can move the arm so that it's over your work. And I find that as soon as I got it, it was like such a game changer because it just illuminates the entire, area of your work. And if you're able to see better, then you aren't, straining to see where those stitches are, because this is a pretty fine and delicate process. You're looking at tiny stitches, you're looking at fine threads and fabrics. So being able to light those, illuminate your work really makes it a lot easier, especially, oh my gosh, if you're working with black thread or black fabric, those are so difficult. So make sure that you have really good lighting. And the last tip that I want to share is more of a reminder. So everything gets better with practice, handwork especially so. We're so used to using our machines, or maybe you're not, but if you are coming to this having been using mostly machine sewing, handwork is just an entirely new thing that we have to adjust to and get used to. So, we're in control of the tension, we're doing our own stitch length, we're manipulating the fabrics, we're navigating these different shapes and curves, and all of that comes down to, how we work with things with our hands, what all of our fingers are doing. And so it's just something that you will get used to and figure out systems that work for you with time and with practice. So just hang in there and know that you will get better and things will get better. You will feel more comfortable doing it and it'll look better. And the other thing that's really important is that we are looking at our projects very closely. No one else is really going to be looking at them that closely. And once you finish, once you give it a good press, once you get it quilted, put into a project, no one is going to see the things that you see. They're going to see beautiful shapes. They're going to see beautiful color. They're going to see the beautiful fabrics that you've selected. So don't go too hard on yourself. Be easy on yourself and enjoy the process. So now I'm going to answer 3 questions from you. If you would like to submit a question, I've got the link for that form below, so check that out. Okay, first question. Lori asks, I've fallen in love with hand stitching. I've wondered about your process. Some teachers advise removing the fabric under an applique. Do you cut out the background fabric? It's a great question. I don't usually cut out the background fabric. And the reason for that is that, applique is an additive process. So we're adding a layer on top and we're stitching it down. And because we're not removing the background, it's not structural, it's purely decorative. But if you were to remove the background, if you were to cut that away, now all of those seams, or all of the seams that you've used to apply your applique become structural, and so they need to be that much more secure. So if you are going to do it, I guess you would do it if you had something that was really bulky and you didn't want that extra bulk. You might decide to cut it away. Just make sure that your stitches are very secure, because they will be what is holding your project together. If they were to come loose, then you would have a hole in your project. Whereas if you keep the backing in place, the background in place, and something comes loose, you don't have a hole. You just have a little bit that's come up, and then you can always tack that back down later. So hope that helps, but that's a great question. Okay, Alex asks, when do you remove your basting stitches? Removing your basting stitches is a great, great question. When I'm teaching this, it's a part of the process that's very satisfying for many people. It doesn't matter. You can do it whenever you finish a shape. You can do it whenever you finish a block. Kind of whatever feels most comfortable to you. I mean, if you need that satisfaction after finishing each shape to kind of like cheer you on, that's great. Or if you like to wait until you finish an entire block and you can have a whole pile of basting stitches that you accumulate as you pull them out, then you could do that too. I'm usually in kind of the latter camp, where I tend to wait until the end and get rid of all of the basting stitches one block at a time. If the basting stitches are in my way for something, then yeah, I will get rid of them sooner. Or if I'm just feeling like it, but it really doesn't matter. Third question, Mary asks, my thread gloss is dried out. What do I do? That's a good question. So the thread gloss is basically good to use whenever, but if you live in different climates can cause the beeswax to expand, to contract, to do all kinds of things. So Fine Thread Gloss has a really good couple of answers in their FAQ on their webpage about some of these different things. So I will get a link for that and put it in the description below. But sometimes what's actually happening is that it's not actually drying out, but instead you're getting a lot of thread or you're getting a lot of lint buildup on top. So a good way to deal with that is to scrape the extra lint off top. So here I've got one, and you can see it is kind of, I can see that there's a buildup. So you could either scrape it away with a knife. One thing that I like to do is I just use my finger, and you could see how it just comes right up. It's actually kind of satisfying. See, look at that. It's maybe a little gross. You could use a knife if you didn't want to use your finger, but I find that if you just kind of roll with it, like I'm just kind of then like that, brush it away, and then it's basically like new. So it's a great question. Well, thank you so much for joining in for this part of the quilt along. Again, I've been really happy to see all of your projects. They are looking great. Don't forget, if you'd like to share your project, you can post it on Instagram using the hashtag PineBowQAL. We're going to be taking a 2-week break for the quilt along, so that gives us some time to put in some work on our projects. And then I'd like to do a post with work from you. So make sure to tag me, or you can email me the pictures of your project if you'd like to be included. I'll show you the progress that I've made, and we'll go from there. So anyway, thank you so much for joining in, and I will see you next time.